In the high-stakes theater of professional sports, there is a specific kind of silence that follows a predictable result. It is a silence of expectations met, of a hierarchy maintained, and of a script followed to the letter. When the world number 2, a literal titan of the court like Elena Rybakina, steps onto the red clay of Rome to face a young challenger who wasn't even supposed to be in the main draw, the world knows exactly what is supposed to happen. We expect a clinical dismissal. We expect a veteran to move through the motions, conserving energy for the later rounds, while the newcomer exits with polite wave and a lesson learned. But on this specific afternoon at the Italian Open 2026, something shifted. The result on the scoreboard, 6-4, 6-3, tells one story, the story of a statistical victory. But the story that is currently catching fire across the global tennis community, the one that is racking up millions of views and sparking heated debates in the corridors of power in the WTA, isn't about who moved into the next round. It is about a post-match interview that has redefined our understanding of a rising star. It is about Alexandra Eala and the moment she stopped being a prospect and started being a problem for the elite. When Alexandra Eala sat down after her loss to Rybakina, she didn't look like a player who had just been defeated. She didn't offer the standard, humble platitudes of a junior-level player happy to have shared the court with an icon. Instead, she looked into the camera and uttered a sentence that has sent shockwaves to the sport. I don't think it was an easy win for her. In those 9 words, the entire narrative of the plucky underdog died. This wasn't arrogance, and it wasn't a lack of respect for Rybakina's formidable talent. It was something far more dangerous to the established order. It was a cold, objective assessment of her own ceiling, which, as it turns out, is much higher than anyone realized. Today, we are going to look past the scoreline and deep into the mechanics of a viral moment that might just be the opening chapter of a new era in Asian tennis. We are going to explore how a last-minute alternate transformed a routine match into a psychological battlefield, and why the fearless mentality displayed in Rome is the most significant development in Eala's career to date. Because while Elena Rybakina walked away with the win, Alexandra Eala walked away with something far more valuable. The realization that the gap between the world's best and herself is no longer an ocean. It's a gap she is already closing. To understand why this moment in Rome carries such weight, we have to look at the psychological scaffolding of professional tennis. At the elite level, matches are often won or lost in the locker room before the players even step onto court. There's a prestige tax that the top 5 players in the world collect from their opponents. When you face a player of Rybakina's stature, a woman who stands nearly 2 meters tall with a serve that feels like a physical assault, most players subconsciously shrink. They play safe tennis, hoping to avoid embarrassment, or they overhit, trying to end points quickly because they don't believe they can survive the long rallies. This is an easy win that Eala was referring to. It's the win where the opponent beats themselves before the first ball is even served. But in Rome, the script flipped. Eala didn't just survive. She hunted. She didn't just rally. She dictated. And in doing so, she created an open loop in the minds of every top player on the tour. They are now asking themselves, if an alternate from the Philippines can make the world number 2 sweat for every single point, what happens when she has a full season of this experience under her belt? What happens when she no longer views these icons as idols, but as obstacles? The stakes here transcend a single tournament in Italy. This is about the democratization of tennis power. For decades, the sport has been dominated by specific geographical and systemic pipelines. But Eala represents a different path. The path of the modern, globalized athlete who has been forged in the fires of elite European academies, but carries the hopes of a nation that is starving for a tennis superstar. The viral nature of her interview isn't just about her words. It's about the conviction behind them. When she said she was super happy to stay in Rome and play more days at this level, she wasn't talking about being a tourist. She was talking about data collection. Every game played against Rybakina is a data point that Eala is using to bridge the gap. We are witnessing the birth of a fearless generation of players who are refusing to wait their turn. They aren't looking for a good experience. They are looking for blood. And as we dive deeper into the technical nuances of this match and the broader implications for Eala's season, you'll see that the 6-4, 6-3 scoreline was the most competitive routine win of Rybakina's year. To truly appreciate the gravity of the Rome encounter, we have to trace the origins of this specific collision. Alexandra Eala's journey to the Foro Italico wasn't a straight line. It was a testament to the brutal, often invisible grind of professional tourer. Coming off a year where her clay court season was marked by the growing pains of a young athlete adjusting to the most demanding surface in the sport, Eala entered 2026 with a point to prove. But the professional circuit is indifferent to narratives. She found herself as an alternate, waiting in the wings, hoping for withdrawal, hoping for a chance to even step onto the dirt. When the news finally broke that she was in the draw, it wasn't just a stroke of luck. It was a collision course. She was thrown immediately into the deep end against Elena Rybakina, the world number 2. This is a context that most casual observers miss. Eala didn't have days to prepare for this specific tactical matchup. She had hours. She went from being out of the singles competition to facing one of the most powerful ball strikers in history. The why factor behind the viral explosion of this match lies in the contrast of styles and mentalities. Rybakina is a personification of clinical efficiency. She doesn't waste emotion. She simply executes. To beat her, you have to do more than play good tennis. You have to disrupt her rhythm and survive a literal barrage of power. Most players in Eala's position, young, lower-ranked, and entering as an alternate, would have been overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the challenge. But look at the micro details of that first set. Eala wasn't just defending. She was counterpunching with a level of tactical rigidity that we usually only see from seasoned top 10 veterans. She didn't flee from the Rybakina serve. She stayed in the rallies, refusing to be bullied by the pace. There were no bagels, no breadsticks. Terms tennis players use for lopsided sets like 6-0 or 6-1. Eala made Rybakina earn every single break point. She turned the match into a war of attrition, and that is exactly why her post-match comments resonated so deeply. She wasn't being delusional. She was being a witness to her own growth. Analyzing the hidden motives of the players involved, we see a fascinating psychological tug-of-war. For Rybakina, this was a match she was supposed to win comfortably. Every minute she spent on the court was energy she wouldn't have for the finals. You could see the subtle frustration in her body language as Eala continued to track down balls that should have been winners. Rybakina was playing against a ghost of her own expectations. On the other side, Eala was playing for something much larger than a third-round spot. She was playing for legitimacy. In her interview, she mentioned her improvement on clay court compared to her experience the previous year. This is a technical nuance that separates the greats from the merely good. Clay is a surface that demands patience, sliding, and an intricate understanding of angles. It is a surface that exposes flaws. By holding her own against the world number 2 on this specific surface, Eala sent a message to the rest of the tour. Her game is no longer one-dimensional. She is no longer just a hard court specialist. She has developed the physical strength and the mental stamina to compete on the slowest, most grueling surface in the world. Let's break down the sub-story of the viral interview itself. Why did it strike such a chord? In the modern era of media-trained athletes, we are used to hearing players say, "She played too well today," or "I'm just happy to be here." These are safe answers. They protect the ego and satisfy the sponsors. But Eala chose a different path. When she said, "I don't think it was an easy win for her," she was effectively claiming a moral victory that translates into future competitive capital. She was saying that she felt the power of the world number 2 and realized it wasn't insurmountable. She was saying that she saw the 2-meter tall giant and wasn't afraid of the shadow she cast. This shift in mentality is the most dangerous weapon a young player can possess. It is the same fire we saw in the early days of Maria Sharapova or Monica Seles, a refusal to accept the natural order of the rankings. Eala is signaling that she no longer sees herself as a prospect or a rising star. She sees herself as a contemporary. Now, for the sake of journalistic integrity, we must look at professional devil's advocate perspective. There are those who would argue that we are over-indexing on a loss. After all, the scoreboard still says 6-4, 6-3. In the cold world of professional rankings, a competitive loss earns you 0 points. Critics might suggest that Eala's confidence, while admirable, needs to be backed up by a signature win against a top 10 player before we can truly declare her a superstar. They might argue that Rybakina was perhaps not at her 100% sharpest, or that the conditions in Rome favored a grittier, slower game that suited Eala's defensive capabilities. It is easy to get swept up in a viral hype of a single interview, but the tour is a long, grueling marathon. One good performance against the top seed doesn't guarantee a career trajectory toward the top 5. There's a graveyard of players who pushed the seed to the limit once and were never heard from again. However, this counter-argument misses the fundamental shift in the Eala project. What we saw in Rome wasn't an isolated flash of brilliance. It was a culmination of a deliberate, multi-year evolution. This is a player who has been under the microscope since she was a teenager, carrying the weight of being the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam. The pressure on her is unique. She isn't just playing for herself. She is playing for a demographic that has never had a seat at the table in elite tennis. The fact that she can walk off a court after a loss to the world number 2 and speak with that level of composure and self-assurance suggests that she has finally internalized the pressure. She is no longer groping for the big stage, as the analysts say. She has arrived, she has looked around, and she has decided that she likes the view. The narrative doesn't end with a singles loss, which is perhaps the most exciting part for her fans. Her journey in Rome continues in the doubles draw with Baptiste. This is a crucial detail. Many young players, after a high-profile singles loss in a viral media moment, might lose focus or feel a letdown in the doubles matches. But Eala's insistence on the good way she is currently in suggests that she is using every moment on the Roman clay to further her education. Playing doubles at this level provides a different kind of tactical training. Faster reflexes, better net play, and the ability to navigate high-pressure points in a team dynamic. It shows a work ethic that is grounded in reality. She knows she has things to work on. She isn't satisfied with a viral clip. She wants the trophy. When we look at the micro level of her play in that first set, we see the fearless mentality in action. There was a specific rally at 4-4 in the first set where Rybakina unloaded a signature flat forehand that would have ended the point against 90% of the tour. Eala didn't just get it back. She redirected the pace, forced Rybakina into an extra shot, and eventually won the point with a calculated, aggressive play of her own. It was a statement point. It said, "I am not moving. You have to go through me." This is what frightens the elite. It's not just a talent. It's a refusal to be intimidated by the great name of the enemy. The fans who are buzzing online aren't just reacting to the score. They are reacting to the energy. They see a player who has stopped asking for permission to win and has started taking her place among the women's elite. As we look toward the horizon, the implications of this Rome run are staggering. If we project 4 or 5 years into the future, to 2031, where will Alexandra Eala be? If the trajectory we saw in Rome holds true, we aren't just looking at a top 30 player. We are looking at a mainstay of the top 10, a player who has become a perennial threat at the Grand Slams. By 2031, the fearless teenager who stood her ground against Rybakina will be a seasoned veteran in her mid-20s, possessing the physical prime and the mental scar tissue required to win the biggest titles in the sport. The viral interview in 2026 will be looked back upon as the Rome Manifesto, the moment the world was officially put on notice. The long-term trajectory of the WTA itself is also being reshaped by players like Eala. We are moving away from an era where 2 or 3 players dominate every tournament. The depth of the tour is becoming its greatest strength. When alternates can push world number 2s to the brink, it means the margin for error at the top is vanishingly small. This creates a more exciting, unpredictable product for the fans, but far more stressful environment for the elite. Eala is the vanguard of this new reality. She represents a global shift where talent can come from anywhere, from Manila to Majorca, and where the mental game is the ultimate equalizer. 5 years from now, the conversation won't be about whether Eala can keep up with the elite. The conversation will be about who can keep up with her. The final thought that I want to leave you with is about the nature of confidence. There's a fine line between delusion and vision. In professional sports, people often mistake a young player's confidence for arrogance. They want the newcomer to stay humble, to know their place. But knowing your place never won a Grand Slam. Knowing your place doesn't help you break the serve of a world number 2. Alexandra Eala's viral moment wasn't about disrespecting Elena Rybakina. It was about Eala finally respecting herself. It was the moment she looked at the summit of the mountain and realized it wasn't as far away as the map said it was. She has recognized that she belongs in the room, and once a player of her caliber makes that mental leap, there is no going back. The story of Alexandra Eala in Rome 2026 isn't a story of a loss. It's a story of an awakening. It is the moment a prospect became a peer. As she continues her journey in the doubles and moves forward into the rest of the 2026 season, the tennis world will be watching with a new level of scrutiny. The online buzz will eventually fade, replaced by the cold reality of the next match and the next tournament. But the fearless mentality she displayed on that clay court is something that cannot be coached and cannot be faked. It is the raw material of a champion. We often ask ourselves what makes a superstar. Is it the trophies? Is it the endorsements? Is it the speed of the serve? Those are all parts of the equation, certainly. But the true essence of superstar is the ability to change the atmosphere of a room simply by walking into it. In Rome, Alexandra Eala changed the atmosphere of the WTA. She proved that you don't need a win to make a statement, and you don't need a ranking to command respect. You just need the courage to look at the best in the world and say, I don't think that was easy for you. As this tournament concludes and the tour moves on to the next city, the echoes of that interview will remain. For the young players in the Philippines and across Asia, Eala has provided a blueprint for how to carry oneself on the global stage. For the established stars of the tour, she has provided a warning. The real superstar of world tennis isn't coming. She's already here. And if you think the next few years are going to be easy for the elite, you haven't been paying attention. This is the beauty of the sport we love. Every once in a while, a single match, a single set, or even a single sentence can change the way we see the future. Alexandra Eala has given us a glimpse of a future where she is at the center of the frame. It's a future that is competitive. It's a future that is fearless. And most importantly, it's a future that she has earned. If you found this deep dive into the psychological and tactical evolution of Alexandra Eala insightful, make sure to engage with the channel. We are committed to bringing you the stories behind the scores, the narratives that shape the world of elite sports, and the analysis that you won't find anywhere else. The road to the top of the WTA is long and treacherous, but after what we saw in Rome, it's clear that Eala has the map, the engine, and the heart to make it to the destination. Stay tuned as we continue to track her progress throughout the 2026 season. The conversation is only just beginning.